Welcome back, everyone, to The Warrens. It's been a while. I'm Fredrik Knudsen, and as per usual, I am joined by Jabroni Mike. Welcome back. I can't believe that you've returned for more.
Yeah, how do you guys justify listening to this? You know what, though? They were good podcasts. They were good episodes. I stand by that content we made. I think it was good stuff. With that one, we won't talk about that one.
That one, yeah.
That one time. But, yeah, we won't talk about that. It was a strong
start.
It was a powerful start to a podcast.
We always enjoyed The Warrens. We never had any intention of canceling it, but as you all might have noticed, EVE Online sort of consumed my life. That video nearly destroyed me. But I'm back, and with it, The Warrens. I have been sitting on this next topic for literally years now.
Oh, it hasn't been that long.
It has literally been that long.
Hold on a minute. When was the last one? Whoa, Fred.
I think it was 3 years ago.
It's actually been 3 years since the last time we did this. Oops. I'm surprised. Honestly, the people that are here, thanks really for remembering this exists.
Yeah,
wow,
right?
Thanks for coming back 3 years later. Oops. Sorry.
The podcast with the most realistic release schedule.
The fact it's happening at all is impressive. So
no, I'm so excited. The whole idea of The Warrens is that I get to talk about topics that are interesting to me, but maybe can't make it into a full down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And there are so many topics like this that would just be fun to chat about. Mike and I stream sometimes, but usually we have to do topics that we can stretch out to a very long form, right? These streams will go for 6 hours plus.
Yeah.
And not all of the topics that we would cover on The Warrens would work for a stream, so this is a really nice middle ground between those streams that last for hours and down the rabbit hole where it's just these incredibly deep topics.
Yeah, it's like little nuggets.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's the nuggets that we're finding in the rabbit. Okay, we're not going. Never mind. This is what a terrible start. We're 3 years back, and we're on fecal funny.
And it wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best part. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
It was you.
This is my fault.
This is
my fault. I feel like the best way to cleanse ourselves, Mike, is with today's topic.
Oh, and what's that, Fred?
Today, we are going to be talking about revitalized water. And not just any revitalized water, because the concept of revitalizing water or infusing water with power is all over the place. There are so many different examples of pseudoscience that claims to improve water or make water healthier. But specifically today, I would like to talk with you about Grandewasser.
Grandewasser.
Gronderwater. Yep, Gronderwater.
Translating to better water. Grander water? Bigger water? Bigger water.
Actually, Grande is the name of the person who created this, but we'll get into that in just a moment.
Okay.
Yes. So the person who made this, who is since deceased for a little over a decade, was named Johann Grande. From my research, I was able to figure out, I believe, that he used to work as a gas station attendant, and while he was working as a gas station attendant, he claims that he had a vision from Jesus.
Always a solid way to start off a business enterprise.
Yes, always. And Jesus came to him and showed him the way to revitalize water. Now, I should note that Johann Grande is the kind of person who enjoys speaking in riddles. He, semi-riddles, right? Like, you ask him a question, and he'll blow it out almost sort of like you're talking to someone from Burning Man.
He's loopy on drugs.
A little, he has that feeling to him where everything is a little bit mystical.
He's been hitting that homemade jenkem.
Yeah. In Tyrol, Austria. He is an Austrian.
Oh, he's not I was assuming Germany because I'm a small-minded American, but he's actually from Austria. Okay.
Yes, he is from Tyrol, which is in Western Germany.
You mean Austria?
Oh my God. See, I'm doing it. This is I choose to blame you. No, he is from Western Austria, sort of the rural area in the middle of nowhere. He decides he is going to make a company based around this idea of revitalizing water.
Because Jesus told him to.
Right, because Jesus told him
Right.
to and told him how to.
Oh, you gave him
taught
the method and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Like, just all of this is divine inspiration. Now, this is what I was able to find. Now, a lot of this history is sort of muddled, and not super precise, and the company itself has done its best to bury this, right? It's not great marketing when... It kind of reminds me a little bit of chiropractic, where chiropractors really love to hide the fact that the person who made it was told how to do it by a ghost.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
There's some similarities there. So you might be asking at this point, Mike, what is revitalized water? Because
Probably like what, filtered water. Let me come at it from a sane perspective.
Go ahead. Sure.
It's filtered water.
You know,
Like
that
in a
is what a
sane
lot of
world,
people assume.
Yeah, like, oh, well, he's come up with some kind of filtration system. Sure. I mean, Jesus probably didn't have to tell him how to do that, but whatever makes him happy, there it is. It's a water filtration system that he believes is superior. He's allowed to market his water filtration system however he wants. But I have a feeling...
You are not the only person. No, you are not the only person who comes to that conclusion.
He probably wants people to assume that, or they probably want people to assume that. Because that's more, I think, palatable than the insane reality that I'm sure you're going to unload on me right now.
Well, a lot of people assume this. This happens a lot where I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself.
Okay.
But companies will sometimes buy Grandewasser, like quote-unquote filters or treatment boxes for their companies,
right.
And people will install it and just assume, oh, it's a water treatment method, right? It's a filter of some kind.
Yeah.
None the wiser. Because, look, I like to stay objective on Down the Rabbit Hole, but I definitely have some personal opinions about this. This is horseshit.
Well, what is it actually? Because we've determined that it's not filtration. So what is it? What is this company selling?
So what they claim they are selling is water whose structure has been quote-unquote restored. They believe that they have found a method to take water molecules and attach them in such a way that the body can use them better. They claim that our current methods of piping and moving drinking water damages the structure of these molecules in one way or another, and they are able to make water back into the chains that they are supposed to be in. I've seen the word hexagonal water used, which is something that is frequently used. That it's also structured water. Now, like all good pseudoscience, it is couched in real science. Sort of like how people like to throw around the word quantum. Water will occasionally build itself into chains because you have the molecule and then the atoms in the molecules will align in such a way. However, this only happens for fractions of fractions of fractions of seconds in real life.
So as water moves through pipes and moves through all these systems that we have of moving water, the actual water molecules themselves can become destabilized? Like, that's true?
No, that's not how that works.
That's how they're claiming it works.
That's how they're claiming it works.
Okay.
Correct. And they claim that they can repair the structure of the water and make it more wholesome and healthy.
So they're not saying that water is inherently broken and they fix it. They're saying that people are breaking down water or ruining water, turning it into bad water.
Right.
Okay. And then their product is the only thing that can get it back to the state it's supposed to be in.
Right. That is what I can divine.
They're not talking about lead pipes or anything like that. They're not talking about, contaminated water. They're talking about water being ruined on a fundamental level. By us somehow.
Right. The shape of water is wrong, and they're fixing it.
Trying so hard not to mention that fish fucker movie right now.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking
And then
the
I did
exact
anyway.
same thing.
And then we both thought, it was going to happen, so we just ripped the Band-Aid off. Okay,
No,
go ahead.
you want to
Sorry.
you want to know they could make so much more money if they claim that like their water is from the tank of a sexy fish man.
It's true. They're already making enough shit up. Why not go there?
So, the question you might be having now is, how does one make Grandewasser? The good news is that it is very, very easy. All you have to do is take damaged water and put it near revitalized water.
It's a proximity buff. It's like an aura.
Right, exactly. It's just being near it, right? If it is just close to it, then the structure will start to repair.
So I have a question. Do they sell the upgraded water to you directly, or do they sell you the mechanisms by which you can upgrade your own water?
Both.
Both. Okay. And what's
Both.
just out of curiosity, we'll get into the mechanisms in a moment, but what is the markup on the Grandewasser itself? I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing that like an American.
It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
So say a bottle of water is like, $2. What's a bottle of Grandewasser?
There was a short documentary that I saw about this that made the claim that tap water is, 5 cents a liter, right? Like 5 euro cents a liter. Grandewasser sells for over 3 euros. So that's quite the markup.
Wow, that's what we call I've heard of snake oil salesman, but I've never heard of snake water salesman. This is new.
Boy, do I have a product that will revitalize your snake oil.
Yeah. Revolutionizing snake oil. You're not going to believe this. They say oil and water don't mix, but not anymore, folks. Introducing to you snake water.
I love the idea of someone selling snake oil in the middle of the street and then someone just down the street selling you something to improve your snake oil.
Got a little ecosystem, a little scam ecosystem going there.
Right, yeah, it's snake oil DLC.
Holy crap. I mean, listen, bottled water as it is already a scam. But this is like, I'm assuming they give it to you in bottles.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
buying
absolutely.
it like pallets of bottles. So it's almost like, I would say probably American Enterprise perfected the scam of bottled water, because I'm sure you're aware that most bottled water is just tap water with a fucking label slapped on it.
Oh, yeah.
But these people saw that and they were like, hold my beer or hold my water, I guess. We could do that better.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they could do it much, much better.
What are the mechanisms that they sell? I wanted to get to the actual mechanisms that they sell to improve your water, or so-called buff your water.
Right. So there are 3 ways that they sell you Grandewasser. One of them is literally just selling you the water itself. Another method that we talked about is that you can buy little boxes that you attach to your water system. And you send all of the water in your house through this thing that almost looks like a filter. And these will sell for thousands of dollars.
Thousands.
Yeah, we're talking huge amounts of water, like huge amounts of money to grande your Wasser.
But we've determined it's not filters, so if you crack one of those bad boys open, what's actually in there?
So what is inside one of these is a very slightly magnetized rod filled with Grandewasser. And it runs your tap water past this rod. Not even touching the rod, I don't believe. It's just in its own pipe.
The proximity
next
buff.
to it. It goes near it, exactly. There's actually one other product. They sell wooden boards, like little, what look to be plywood boards, with, again, the magnetized metal copper, I believe, rod with Grandewasser in it. And what they tell you to do is put bottles of regular tap water on them, and it'll revitalize the water, or you can put fruit on it, and they claim that the fruit and vegetables will stay better longer.
So now
it's adjusting the water in them.
In the fruit. So now what it's doing, the claims are expanding here. Grandewasser, not just for Wasser anymore, apparently. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
they're altering the water inside of anything, right? You just have it in proximity. You put it on these boards. However, there are more claims about these boards. They encourage you to put your feet up on them
Fred,
to
this is
help alleviate
exactly
pain.
what I was gonna say. My mind, when you're saying this about the fruit, I think, wait a minute, isn't the human body like 70% water or something? What is that
Oh
statistic?
yeah.
So theoretically, if you follow this logic, this product could turn you into a superhuman.
Yes.
Like you
That is very
revitalize the
much
water inside your body. That's the next
Mhm.
logical claim for them to make about their product.
Right.
And you're telling me that they do make it. I was joking, but they do make it. They actually go that far as to say that.
Oh yes, yes, absolutely.
Unreal.
Um,
Like just
yeah.
strap one to your lower back, if you're having back pain, sciatica, what have you.
Unironically, yes.
There's okay. It's like they have a little harness where you could walk around with it like a proton pack or something. They got
Right.
I'm thinking of those suits from like a Death Stranding has them where like you wear it and it makes you stronger.
Oh,
Allows you
yeah,
to
or
lift
like
more and makes you superhuman, makes you
right.
stronger, faster.
The one thing that Frank Herbert was missing from Dune is like he didn't put a Kandavasa system inside of the still suits.
Right.
Revitalize your reclaimed water.
Grandavasa, the next stage in human evolution.
The way that
Unbelievable.
they talk about it, you would think.
So that's the next thing I want to ask you is how do
Mhm.
they talk about it? Like what are the claims that they make specifically? Like if you go to their website, because I know that they have a website. I think we looked at it 3 years ago, the first time we talked about doing this.
Yeah, a million years ago.
A million years ago. They have a very they have an explanation. They don't just make these claims and expect you to believe them. They actually have a kind of they have a pitch, don't they?
They do. They claim that what Granderwasser can do is backed up by science. And again, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but it is frustrating. Back in the 1990s, when I believe it was the 90s when they did this study, it was around this time, right? When they were really starting to take off. They did a study to try to see, they truly seemed to believe that Kandavasar could do all these incredible things. And so they commissioned a study. In the time between like when I researched this and now, I did a little bit more research to see if like anything else had come up. And there was a series, a pretty fun little series called Quark Science Cops, who covered this. And they claimed that Kandavasar did a study on Kandavasar's effects on yeast.
Okay.
And as you might expect, the results weren't exactly what they were looking for. Kandavasar had no effect that was different from just control water.
Uh-huh.
And they decided to write their conclusions very specifically, saying that it had no negative effect on the growth of yeast bacteria.
Well, it didn't do anything bad, so
Well,
pay us, right?
yeah, I'm quoting them here in case they may have misunderstood, but the other thing that's a little funny is that yeast is a fungus, not a bacterium. It can't have an effect on yeast bacteria because there's no such thing as yeast bacteria.
I think they're past the point about caring about specifics like that. I mean, that probably is not something that occurred to them to even give a flying shit about. The distinction between bacteria and fungus, right?
Well, I think that they're more interested in vibes. Because
Vibes.
if you look at the sort of claims they make, a lot of them feel very vibe-based.
It's very expensive vibes, huh?
Right. When people talk about the effects that Kandavasar has, it's always, oh, I feel better. Sometimes they make concrete claims, but the ones that seem to be most effective are the ones where they just say, yeah, I feel better, and it totally makes it taste better. There are clips of the Kanda family saying, or what, like there was a family at the very least saying, oh, the kids don't drink soda anymore. They prefer drinking Kandavasar.
It's very, very reminiscent of people who visit chiropractors.
Yeah. It is. Or acupuncture.
Yeah, that whole
Yeah,
field
there's-
of. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm sure I feel better. It's called placebo. It's a powerful
Yeah.
thing, right?
It can be difficult to tell when a personal feeling is actually the physical effect of something, or if it is the placebo effect. If it's just your body
Right.
believing it can do something, it is very powerful. I think the difference here is that there are concrete scientific claims being made, right? Fruit lasts longer when it is put on a Kondavasa board.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is evidence, so-called. They have data. They're claiming they have data.
Right.
Because they've done other studies, if I remember correctly. Like, that wasn't the only
Yes.
one.
So I decided to look into these studies personally. They have them available on their website. They claim, hey, you can look at the research that we've done in Kondavasa, revitalized water is scientifically proven. I was like, wow, okay, well, interesting.
Huge claim.
Maybe if this is real, yeah, I'm like, oh my God, like this would be amazing, right? Because if revitalized water is real, that could be an incredible thing. So I'm like, okay, let's see what it is. The studies had only to do with the effect of magnetism on water and the way it causes large particulates to clump together. It has nothing to do with revitalized water. The rods are very slightly magnetized, but it doesn't seem like, from the studies that I saw, the wild claims that they are making are not substantiated by the studies that they are purporting support them.
Doesn't it just make so much sense that it's magnets? Doing something funky, doing something weird, you want to confuse people? It's magnetism. Throw some magnets in there. Or if you want to get real fancy, it's electromagnetism. Don't worry about it. Oh, electromagnetism. Well, that's out of my, that's above my pay grade. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, throw around electromagnetic field and you can just bilk hundreds of dollars from people.
Kind of like the word, what was the word you said earlier? Like
Which
that?
one?
You were saying there's another word like that you could just invoke and people would be like, oh,
quantum.
Quantum, right. It's like that.
People love quantum because no layperson truly understands what quantum physics is.
I don't.
It is so complicated and technical. So people love using quantum physics to justify pseudoscientific claims because nobody understands what it is. We have a layperson's generalized understanding of what it is, but even that doesn't encompass what it actually entails. And it's those gaps where people can make these very intense, wild claims.
Here's what I think they're hoping. You go to the website, you're thinking, how does this work? Oh, this study proves that this works. You're like, oh, cool. You click on that. You see a bunch of nonsense that you have no hope of understanding because you're not a scientist. And then you just say, all right, I think I'll take their word for it. Where do I put in my credit card number? Right.
Well, most people don't even go that far, right? Like, all you have to do is have the PDF.
Yeah.
And say it totally says this.
It doesn't actually prove anything. It's not their study because the one time they did try to do a study, it proved absolutely nothing. It's almost like, when flat earthers try to prove that the earth is flat and every time they do, they prove it's round. So they just say that, that doesn't count. That one didn't count. Right.
Mulligan.
Yeah, we'll mulligan that.
Well, the interesting thing about these studies is that the company commissioned them themselves, as far as I can tell.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
See, that's what I was asking before. No, they actually did commission the studies.
I don't know about this first study that looked at yeast, but these other studies were done by another university that seems to be very close with specific industries.
Ooh, now we're getting conspiratorial.
I have no allegations to make here because I have not spent a ton of time looking into this. Right, the Warrens is just a fun thing on the side, right? Like this would take a lot of investigation.
He ain't diving down this particular rabbit hole.
Although I did a long time ago try to get in contact with one of the people involved with these studies, and I never heard back.
Actually, I do remember
I never heard back.
Well, yeah. Well, we know here in America that it's actually quite easy to buy the results of studies. Right?
Yes. Well, the entire scientific community is definitely, it's in a bad way right now. There's what I've heard termed a replication crisis, where people publish papers and nobody else can replicate the results.
So independently, another researcher could try to replicate it, but would fail?
Right, exactly.
Well,
Studies
that's
are
not
coming
good.
out, and nobody can replicate the results. They can't come to the same conclusions.
Well, that means that those studies are bullshit, is what it means.
Not necessarily. Sometimes there are methodological issues that maybe they're not documented as well as they should have been, or the person replicating it didn't quite do it right. This happens frequently in science. But there is what I've heard called a replication crisis. Now, again, these are major claims, and there is no way that I could ever say, oh yeah, these people are in bed with these people. I don't have nearly enough information to make that kind of claim. But I don't even think that there was any malfeasance here. Just my gut, because these were interesting papers that came to interesting conclusions with potentially applicable results to helping improve water. The problem is that it just does not support Grandewasser's claims of revitalizing water into structures, into their quote-unquote original geometric structures. This would be a major find in science.
Because they haven't even proved that the water is being destructured. They haven't even proved that this is a problem on a large scale.
Not from what I can tell. They're just saying it.
Their entire grift is predicated on that being the case. And they've provided no evidence of that. I am getting a little pissed off here now. I'm starting to get a little...
I suspected. Whenever we talk about these topics, this always gets you riled up. And it's
Before we started recording this, Fred was like, I feel like this is going to make you mad. And I was like, no, it won't. I'm sure it'll be fine. The entire thing that they're resting their whole product on hasn't even been proven, is what I'm saying.
Correct. And there is another very large problem. Grandewasser, by being in proximity with damaged water, can revitalize it. Let's say, hypothetically, I take some Grandewasser and I dump it in the ocean. I have just revitalized all water in the world.
Oh my God, wait. You're saying that they're invalidating their own usefulness. Is that what you're saying?
I don't understand how Grandewasser exists and damaged water also exists. It's it reminds me a little bit of Ice 9.
Right, from that.
I'm thinking of Cat's Cradle. I'm thinking of Cat's Cradle. Okay. Or Ice 9 is
I know it
Cat's
from the
Cradle
nonary games.
Okay.
If you know what that is. Which I hope you don't.
I do not actually.
Good.
Okay.
But go ahead, sorry.
You put just a tiny bit of Ice 9 in the ocean, and now all the world's oceans are frozen. Right?
Right.
They're solid now. And that's the end of the world. It feels like that, right? Hypothetically, that's what would happen unless we're missing some piece of the puzzle.
It's you made this discovery once. Hey, you fixed water. We're good.
Right.
We don't need you anymore.
Right.
I think that, the missing piece of the puzzle is this, I think. And I think they probably are aware of what you're saying. Well, shit. I mean, maybe there's no reason for people to buy our shit if it works this way.
It had to have occurred to them at some point, right?
It did. And that's why they're saying oh, well, by the time it comes out your faucet, it's been damaged again. Right? This water is ruined. Look at it. Because it came through a pipe. It came through an aqueduct or whatever. We're going back on 2,000 years of plumbing here and saying that the whole thing, all those people, all throughout human history, were drinking damaged water. And wouldn't you know it, Fred? Every single person who drank that water died.
Oh my God.
That's why you need Grandewasser, right? That's the pitch.
Yeah.
It's literally that. Oh, man.
When water makes its way through plumbing systems, all of all of that movement and those dangerous chemicals are turning that pure, clean water into another dangerous chemical, dihydrogen monoxide. I would like to point something out. This idea of, structured water fixing the structure of other water might remind you a little bit of like the memory of water, which is a key element of homeopathy, right? Like water remembers the things that have been in it.
Sometimes when you drink water, you're drinking Abraham Lincoln's piss.
And the water remembers that piss.
Yeah, it remembers 7 years ago, I passed through the bladder of the man with the funny hat. And now I'm going down Fred Knudsen's throat.
I am pissing Abraham Lincoln's piss.
That's epic. Man, that's patriotic.
In the same way that Kondawasser makes all water Kondawasser, Abraham Lincoln's piss makes all water American piss. Right? No matter where you are in the world, the piss of Abraham Lincoln is flowing through you.
Well, if that's true about Abraham Lincoln, that's true about everyone. Like, you drank Mussolini's piss.
Right.
Crazy.
But the
heroes
freedom,
and villains, right?
No, the freedom of Abraham Lincoln's piss, like, keeps you safe.
Tastes
keeps you
different.
free.
I feel like we're getting into the weeds. It's turning into like a piss kink thing now, which we probably... This is our first episode back in 3 years. Let's not talk about piss kink.
It is remarkable how urethral this series has been.
This one's on me. I brought up Abraham Lincoln's piss. All right, I'll take responsibility for this. But to get it back on track.
Oh, I really wanted to say, like, I could not find any link between Kondawasser and homeopathy. But this sort of, like, enhancement of water is as old as time, right? As old as humanity. Humans have always been doing funny things to water to try to make it, healthier or, like, make it into an elixir of life of some kind.
To have gamer girls bathe in it,
Right, yeah.
Kinds of wacky stuff.
Or fishmen.
Fishmen, sexy fishmen.
Yeah.
Right. I sort of feel like, and maybe I'm making an assumption here.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I always sort of felt like Europeans would somehow be less susceptible to this kind of scam. I don't know why. like you want to assume Americans are dumber. You hear a story like this, you're like, I can readily and easily believe Americans, especially boomers, buying into this shit, buying magnets and slapping them in their sink and all this dopey shit, spending thousands of dollars to do it. You know what I mean? Like, because we have MLMs here. Right? Like, MLMs are proof positive of what I'm saying. As far as I know, they don't have MLMs in Europe, do they?
I can't speak to that, but what I can speak to is a long, long history of fraud in Europe. Europeans,
right. Austrian wine scandal.
Really good. Exactly. I made a video about one.
Right, and worth noting, Grandewasser also from Austria.
Yes. I learned about it. I think I learned about Kondawasser at about the same time that I learned about the Austrian wine poisoning.
Probably as a consequence of looking into it, maybe even. Who knows? 3 years ago.
Yeah, if only they had taken that poisoned wine and run it through a Kondawasser filter or put it on one of their boards for a while, they would have been okay.
Could have restored the wine. I mean, hey, who's a master at, wine stuff? Jesus. Who gave the guy the idea for the Grandewasser? Jesus. It's all coming together here.
Oh my God.
Wine
the divine
stuff.
Conspiracy.
But yeah, so you're saying there is a long, proud tradition of scams in Europe going back to, antiquity.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Europeans have mastered the craft of the scam.
Well, it is. I think they may have created the scam, but I think we mastered it really in the good old US of A. I do think. Come on. This is the land of MLMs and all kinds of, grifts and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure we invented multi-level marketing schemes, pyramid schemes and shit.
I will say that Kondawasser does have a particular claim to fame here.
Okay.
There are tons of counties in, villages in Austria that have adopted publicly the use of Kondawasser water revitalizers.
Oh my God.
This is being used in, like, public drinking fountains, in the public waterworks. And even like school pools will use them. Now, one of the claims that Grandewasser makes about their revitalizers is that when you use them, you don't need to use as much. Like for example, if you're using it for pool water, you don't have to use as much chlorine. It reduces the amount of cleaners that you need to use.
Oh, so these people went for that.
Yeah.
All right, Europeans do not get to say they're smarter than Americans anymore. That's over. Europeans, I'm sorry, it's over. You don't get to be smug about this anymore. You are not smarter than us. Because guess what? That's taxpayer dollars going to buy several $1,000 filters
that need to be replaced. They're not even filters. There are no filter systems on these.
Magnets. Taxpayer dollars buying several $1,000s worth of magnets that sit next to pipes. Sorry, Europe. No more. No more of that. Americans are dumb. Nuh-uh. You're finished.
Listen, where do you think Americans came from?
Right.
Originally.
Right.
America was colonized by Europe.
We have a lot more in common than you think, Euroids. You just don't want to admit it. We are you.
We learned it from you, Dad.
Yeah. So get off that superiority complex bullshit, all right? Because your tax dollars are paying for magnets.
You can see where the concerns come in, right? Because if you are telling people that you don't have to use as much chlorine in pool water, well, they're going to use less chlorine in pool water, and suddenly you can get outbreaks.
You're now in a place
bacteria
where it's not a grift that just, hurts people's bank accounts. It's now actually dangerous.
Right.
Yeah, you've crossed the line.
There's the issue of medical pseudoscience where people might try this in lieu of more proven scientific medical methods because it's cheaper, even though it is extremely expensive. Medicine can be more expensive, though perhaps that's not as much of a European problem anymore.
Grandewasser, all the kids in the community swimming pool, the public swimming pool, they're all getting like meningitis outbreaks and stuff. What do we do? Well, it looks like you didn't buy enough Jesus magnets. Just we'll send you a couple more. Just send us another like $100,000 of taxpayer money, and we'll get that fixed up real quick.
It's not just the government that's falling for this either. It's companies. Many companies are sending their water through these water revitalizers. Some Austrian listeners might recognize the name Dreh und Trink, which translates to spin and drink. It's one of those kids' sodas that comes in the soft plastic bottles where you twist the top off. There's a little plastic nib that you twist and tear off, and then you can drink the soda. It's like a distressingly small amount of soda for the packaging. We're not going to get into our plastic rant. Like Mike and I occasionally go on plastic rants on stream. You're not going to get it this time, Mike.
That's how Durfing was born, but we're not going to. Yeah, we're not going to do it. Yeah,
we're not doing that this time. But Dreh und Trink uses Grandewasser revitalizers.
Oh man.
That might not mean very much to you, Mike, but this is a drink that like tons of kids have drank, right? Like it's in department stores all over the place in Austria. And when interviewed about it, right, there was a very funny documentary where the people who are in charge of the bottling facility were asked, like, so what does it do? And there was just this awkward silence. They have no idea.
You know what's wild, right? Now you're talking about a corporation with a board, and they're sitting there and they're talking about, quarterly earnings. I mean, there's a huge elephant in the room, right? Hold on. If we stop buying the Jesus magnets for our factories, we can increase our profit. And that's really eating into the bottom line here. We're buying, I'm assuming they're buying the Grandewasser from Grandewasser.
No, they're buying the filter.
They are buying
not the filters, but like the revitalizers that you attach to your plumbing.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is that a one-time expense, or do these occasionally need to be replaced?
You need to replace them.
Of course you do.
Of course.
Of course you do. The scumbags.
You got to keep coming back, buddy.
Oh, man. So again, like, you know, when you're talking about corporate dudes, whatever their CEOs, whatever the fuck, these people who their life revolves around trying to make funny number go up, how do they justify buying the Jesus magnets every quarter?
They swear that it saves them money. There are companies that swear it saves them money.
They are brain rotted. Like they have been thoroughly conned and had their brain chemistry changed by this scam. That is insane.
Yeah.
And these are business professional adults, okay,
Right.
who presumably are business savvy and have their heads screwed on right and are supposed to be, smart. Man, this is one of those, like, you assume that these people know what they're doing because they look at where they are in life. And then it's like, oh wow, you just failed upward, didn't you?
Much like Europeans, Mike, I'm afraid to tell you that corporate CEOs are also humans.
Right? This is how you get your, we have 18 dead chimps from Neuralink chips and shit. You get that? I don't want to get into him, but you get the point.
I'm just going to say to anyone listening, I almost feel obligated to say this. Already, with technology, you don't want to be the first adopter, never be the first person to get the next edition of Windows, right?
Boy, did I learn that.
Yeah. Imagine that, except it's stuck into your brain meat. If you already don't want to be the first adopter of a technology that isn't jammed into your brain meat, do you really want to be the first person with technology jammed into your brain meat before they've worked out the kinks?
Now's a good time to tell you guys that I was the first human trial for Neuralink. Anyways, let's finish the podcast, Fred.
There is a slight denouement to this.
I have no idea what that word means.
A conclusion, right?
Oh, you mean
coming
denouement?
down.
You're saying denouement.
Yeah, the denouement.
Yeah, I know. I'm being a
going
dick.
to scream.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry. Don't
Mike
scream.
Mike keeps us grounded here.
Yeah, gotta stay grounded. I want to fly too close to the sun.
Now, something I'd like to mention is that in 2001, Johann Gander was awarded the Austrian Cross of Honor for science.
This is an official government body thing? This is the actual the government of Austria.
Mm-hmm. It took about 5 years for people to start going, wait a minute. What science has this guy done?
Oh, this scam runs deep, dude. This conspiracy. There's a bigger conspiracy here. If you started checking out those rabbit holes, you'd find some wild shit, I bet you.
I wonder,
Yeah.
right? It would be tricky because of my loose grasp of German.
Yeah.
But I can't help but wonder, right? Like, I feel like I could go as deep as I like on this.
I mean, did that guy buy that award? What happened there?
He didn't buy it, from what I can tell.
Well, are the people who had the authority to give it to him, are they also brain rotted? Like, did he get to them? Like, what?
That's a great question that you should ask them. There was a person early on when Kandavasser was really taking off, named Professor Erich Eder, who is a biology professor in Vienna. Now, he wrote to a newspaper who talked about Kandavasser, and specifically, he called it esoteric humbug. I've seen a few different translations of this phrase. I've seen nonsense. I've seen humbug.
Are you going to tell me this guy was assassinated, Fred?
No, but he was sued.
They sued him for speaking the truth, or speaking his opinion, I guess.
Well, the court case, there have been a few court cases, and some of these court cases that Kandavasser brought against him lasted for over like he's been dealing with these for like a decade. I don't know.
They ruined his life,
I think,
is what it sounds like.
No, he's okay. He still is talking out. He's a professor who enjoys speaking out against pseudoscience. And some of these, like, they kept him tied up in court for a while. Yeah, like mega Chad energy.
They fucking sued him.
After 3 years, the High Court of Austria upheld Erich Eder's right to call Kandavasser esoteric garbage.
Austria
or
dub.
nonsense or humbug. So now,
Can't believe it took that long, but
legally speaking, Konderwasser is esoteric nonsense. You're
right.
right.
Well, that's
You're
a
right
little bit
to
of a
call.
stretch.
You're right
but-
to call Konderwasser esoteric nonsense is legally upheld in Austria.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow.
Now, in other cases, so the courts have almost universally sided with Eric Eder. And in fact, Konderwasser has multiple times been forced to pay fines for misrepresenting their product and making wild claims.
And you'd think that would destroy their entire business model, but here we are.
Oh, as far as I can tell, they are still around.
Yep.
They are still selling their water revitalization.
Come on,
And-
guys.
Yep. And
wake
it
up.
has expanded all
It's expanded.
over the world.
It's grown. It's now a global brand.
Mm-hmm. Although the marketing team has tactically decided to remove any mention of Johann Konder being inspired by Jesus.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah. They try to paint a more scientific face onto it, but at its core, it is a dude who claims he had a vision from Jesus about how to fix the geometry of water. And even after legally and scientifically being rebuffed and rebuked, financially and otherwise, Konderwasser continues to this day. So maybe, just maybe, Mike, we're the idiots.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty stupid. I sure could go for some Jesus magnets to put against my skull and maybe pull some of the destroyed brain cells out of my brain. You know, the ones that got destroyed by me learning about this. Because my brain is like 70% water, right?
Right. Come and tune in to Mike's next stream where we buy these very expensive Konderwasser boards and break them over each other's heads to get smarter.
And that would actually be some hilarious content.
That would be really good content.
You know what? I
actually.
think before we wrap this up, because I remember looking at the website and seeing some incredible examples of like outrageous doublespeak or like doublethink talk and like pseudoscience that was like absolutely baffling. Would you be able to read some of those off real quick? Like some of the really egregious examples of like batshit, just redundancy and just saying a lot while saying absolutely nothing type shit?
Yeah, sure. Give me a second to pull it up. Yeah.
It's been a long time. It's been 3 years since we looked into this again, but I remember seeing some shit in there that was like laugh out loud ridiculous.
We did look at the website together a long time ago, and like Mike molded so hard.
I'm molding now hearing about it. I hate scams. You should also hate scams. Anybody listening to this should be mad right now. I don't know what to tell you. Anger is the appropriate response to this, guys. They're ripping people off. They're ripping off taxpayers. They're ripping off consumers. They're ripping off the government. They're ripping off everybody they can. They're ripping off companies. No one is safe from these people. It's magnets. Magnets don't do anything. Well, they do. Okay. In this case, magnets don't do anything.
They have changed their website since I last looked at it.
Oh, boy.
This is fun. They have a whole section about, like, I'm literally just looking at this. I have not looked at this before recording this podcast. I'm just looking now. They have a whole section about animal welfare and animal breeding.
Using the Grandewasser.
If you give your animals Konderwasser, they say it increases the performance. Konderwasser increases the general well-being, balance, and performance of animals.
These statements have not been evaluated by anybody ever.
They don't even, like, I feel like this is just made up, right?
They don't even know what they're talking about. They themselves are like, oh yeah, it just increases the general well-being. How?
Yeah.
It just
One
does.
claim.
It just does.
Okay, so one of the classic claims about Konderwasser is on here. This is a claim that is as old as the company. They say that animals instinctively prefer revitalized water.
So there should be videos of that. There should be animals, like a dog being given 2 bowls of water, one, a blind taste test, whatever. Right.
Mhm.
One of them's Grandewasser, one of them's not. Consistently, he goes to the Grandewasser because his instincts tell him that water is better.
Right.
This should be easy to replicate, easy to prove. There should be tons of videos of this. I bet you there's not a single video of this.
They are reticent, from what I've been able to tell.
I wonder why.
I would be dubious of any videos they make as well. Here, makes animals more resilient. Revitalized water strengthens the resistance and resilience of animals, and thus contributes significantly to a healthier and longer life.
Grandewasser is going to make your dog live longer, is what they're saying.
Mhm.
That's what they're saying.
This is interesting. Reduces odor nuisance. Grandewasser has a positive effect on microorganisms involved in the process and therefore reduces the odor nuisance of, for example, liquid manure and wastewater plants.
They're saying that if you drink Grandewasser, your shit don't stink.
Yes, literally.
Yo, the balls on these people are insane. Bigger than yours, even.
How do you think they got such massive balls? By drinking Grandewasser.
Right. It increases testicle size. Sure. This is insane, dude. Keep going. This is what I was talking about. This is what I wanted you to read. Yeah. Is there more of this shit?
Grandewasser revitalization sustainably reduces the need for medical intervention and the use of medication.
Yo, in animals or people or both?
Both. Specifically animals here.
Right. So Grandewasser has basically outmoded, obsoleted veterinarians.
Mm-hmm.
Grandewasser, sorry, veterinarians, pack it up. Your career's over. You're finished. No need for you anymore.
There is an entire section on this website dedicated to technology, building services, and supply engineering. Extends maintenance intervals. Grandewasser can remain longer in the heating and cooling circuit in machines and plants due to its better durability, and thus extends the maintenance intervals.
And again, any data to prove that?
We have frequently asked questions.
So wait, I want to back it up 1 second. Sorry. Are they given any examples of any machines or systems? Or are they just generally saying that in general?
It looks like they do private customer surveys, and it looks like they just make claims.
You're just going to have a guy come down there and tell you need the Grandewasser and fucking pack it up. Like, what scenario do they send the guy down there and he looks at what you got going on, whatever, machine cooling system you have for your I'm guessing factories and shit like that, and he tells you, you're good. You don't need the magnets. You're good. No, this cannot be better. Good day, sir. Right? Can you see that happening? Why do I feel like that never happens?
I am mystified. So basically what they don't have a whole lot of scientific studies. What they have are surveys from people who have them installed. But it looks like some of the questions that they are using to make their claims are very general and not specific to Grandewasser. Like here, does the use of water revitalization provide an improved room and living climate? And the answer is yes. According to the Lamapol Grandeur Community Survey in 2019, 74.3% of respondents agreed with the question, provides a comfortable indoor climate.
They never asked them about Grandewasser was not in the questions, the survey that they asked.
Yeah,
them.
this phrasing,
wasn't even in there.
The way that they phrase this feels... it's a little vague, It's
riddles, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
Like,
they're speaking in roundabout terms here.
It's like when they asked Tommy Tallarico how much Roblox offered him for the oof sound. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been quietly thinking about these comparisons.
Yeah, you didn't want to get off topic, and we won't.
Right.
Don't worry. What else are they saying?
What does the Grandeur effect do in heating water? Clean and odorless heating water. That's the thing. Like, they keep saying, oh yeah, Grandewasser doesn't smell. You know what also doesn't smell? Normal water. Like just
Heating water. I mean, I guess I feel like I've experienced like not even an offensive odor, but a little bit of like a something sometimes with like heat kicks on in certain places.
Right,
Like,
yes. Absolutely.
Maybe that's what they're talking about, right? Like it's just like I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's the boilers and stuff venting something. Who the fuck knows what we've been inhaling our whole lives, but
These are just some very large claims to be saying that Grundwasser is better for industrial use.
right.
Right?
And people buy it.
And they
Look at the
do.
soda company. They're like, yeah,
They do.
let's do this.
These companies swear that Grundwasser reduces their overhead.
It's insane.
And I can't help but wonder if it's less the actual effect and more because it's an excuse, right? Like, we don't have to install and maintain real filters because we're just sending it through a revitalization mechanism.
Right, Fred, because here's the thing. If it's true that these, I'm just going to keep calling them magnets because that's what they are. I'm not dignifying it by calling it Grundwasser anymore. If it's true that these magnets are reducing their overhead, then there should be a comparison. Like we can clearly see, like prior to installing these things, we spent more money on water. After installing these things, we're saving money on water. Why do I feel like that's not happening? Why do I feel like none of these people who are swearing by this can produce that? Have they?
The major problem that we're running into is that any time that that Grundwasser is looked at with enough scrutiny, there are problems, right? There is no effect that can be found. All of the supporting evidence is anecdotal claims and surveys. But as we both know, people are not always the most reliable. That's why we have the scientific method. The scientific method exists so that we can extract as much human bias out of knowledge as we can, right? And all of the evidence that Kanda really likes parading in front of people is anecdotal and surveys that they send out to people who are already using and are likely convinced of the usefulness of their devices. It is, I think that there is a little bit of confirmation bias going on in here.
Yeah, these people already bought the line of bullshit. Like, you don't have to convince it to anybody who already believes it. You don't have to convince anyone who's already drank the Kool-Aid here or drank the Grande Kool-Aid, so to speak. You brought up an interesting, before I forget, you brought up an interesting thing too. Maybe the Grundwasser is a way to circumvent other regulatory necessities that might be more expensive. And if that's true, usually, not all the time, regulations are there for a reason. Because there's, you hope, and this isn't always the case, governments aren't perfect, but sometimes, again, the reason there's a regulation is because something is dangerous.
Right.
Maybe the unfiltered water has metals in it or something. Maybe, like you said, using a legitimate filtration system might cut into the bottom line a little bit more than the bullshit Grundwasser filtration system. So now you have a conspiracy. Again, like now it's like, ooh, well, of course these corporations know that Grundwasser is bullshit, but it's just a way to get the authorities off their back. It's a way to get regulatory agencies off their back because, look, we did something, and hey, your government gave this guy a fucking medal, so how could it be bullshit, government of Austria?
Right.
Right?
If you can just say that the water is being treated somehow, then that's great.
Gets you off the hook for something more expensive.
Right. If you are pushing a lot of water through your pipes, then filters have to be replaced on the regular, and those things are not cheap. So if you can tell a regulator that you are treating your water in a way that doesn't require you to replace filters nearly as often, there's some savings to be made there. Now, obviously, this is all speculation. Everything
Fred,
that we are saying is speculation.
I don't know, man. I think you really hit the nail on the head with this. I'm convinced if you went down this rabbit hole, you're uncovering a fucking conspiracy. I think this is a massive conspiracy involving these scumbags, government employees, corporations, regulatory people, like people getting their pockets greased. And again, Europe loves to have a moral high ground on this. Well, we don't have lobbying like you guys do over there. Yeah, but you have shit like this. And I bet you there's shit like this going on all over Europe.
I am not convinced that it's a conspiracy. And here's why. I don't think that there's a conspiracy because I don't think that there needs to be a conspiracy.
You're saying people are just this stupid. It's just that.
I don't even think that it's stupidity. I think that this is a result of the way that these systems are set up.
Okay.
Because companies are incentivized to reduce their operating costs as much as possible. The oversight might be limited enough in certain areas that they can cut costs by using these conduit systems instead of actual filtration systems. And that appeases the regulators who perhaps are not funded enough or they don't know what to look for whatever reason. I don't think that this is conspiratorial. I think that this is just a result of the systems not being robust enough. This is how this kind of thing happens. It typically does not happen consciously. It happens insidiously. It happens casually.
Because of negligence or just, like you said, the systems in place aren't robust enough to really do what needs to get done to protect people.
Right. It's just a lot of little failure points. I believe that these sort of cost-cutting measures are, funny enough, like water. They always find the path of least resistance.
Wow. That's profound. That's a sexy statement.
Mike, could you level this out by saying "come" a couple of times?
We said "come" more than enough times in the in the other episode that we won't talk about.
We said "come" enough times for an entire series.
Let me put it to you this way. From an American perspective, I always look at Europe and I see the land of consumer protection.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example. Look what they did to Apple. I love what they did to Apple.
Mm-hmm.
Apple ate shit and had to change that lightning port to a USB-C. That was awesome. That should happen here, but it doesn't. Because in the United States, right, it's more about corporate protection than it is about consumer protection, right? But in Europe, it's like you feel like that's different. But I think this incident right here is proving that it's not different, but maybe it's for different reasons. Again, like not having a robust enough system versus, because I think here it's conspiracy, personally. I think, we do. Admittedly, there's a big problem with lobbying. There's a big problem with pockets getting greased and things like that and payoffs and under the table shit going on over here. But in Europe, it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe the will isn't there to stand up to a company like Grandewasser and be like, okay, you know what, you can't do this. And maybe it's not considered dangerous enough. Maybe enough kids didn't get meningitis in the swimming pool for them to care. Because again, I bet you they do regulate things like, the amount of metals that can come through tap water, right? And be used in a soda making plant or whatever.
Personally, I feel like the story of Grandewasser speaks to something very human, right? Like, the oldest recorded story that we have is the Epic of Gilgamesh. And in the Epic of Gilgamesh, there is the story of the Urshanabi, which is the elixir of life, the water of life, right? It brings youthfulness and strength. The idea of water that can revitalize you is as old as storytelling.
The fountain of youth?
Right. And I think that it is an incredibly human thing to tell stories, and one of the core human stories is that of the water of life, the fountain of youth. It has taken so many different forms across all of humanity's history, across all human cultures, and there is no amount of regulation that will get in the way. Grandewasser knows that, and they have capitalized on it.
You're saying it's almost subconscious and like in the collective human mind.
Mm-hmm.
Water gives life. Life comes from water.
Right. Water is an incredibly important thing, right? Like just for life itself on our Earth. And water is one of the tests for life anywhere. And nobody is going to stop people from trying to make water more than it is. Water is already an incredible thing, Mike. Like, if you really sit down and think about water, it's amazing, right? It allows for so many things, but some people just want more.
Right. Water's not good enough for you, huh?
Mhm.
The building blocks of life are not good enough for you.
Right.
You want to improve it. Yeah.
We're down here. They have managed to gentrify water. That's the moral that I take away from Kantavasa. It is so inherently human, and even after being legally, officially declared as like pseudoscientific, esoteric nonsense, they still are going strong.
It's a good scam. It's a good scam. You say what you want, but you kind of gotta, you gotta stand in awe. You gotta give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good
It's
scam.
working.
It's working real well.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted to talk with you about today, Mike. I am actually very impressed with how well you kept it together. You did a good job.
What were you expecting? Me to just break down and start babbling about cum?
Mike, I thought that you were going to burst a blood vessel in your brain when we talked about Mobility Mary.
Oh, you mean getting angry?
Yeah.
Well, I've come a long way working on
Mellowed out.
rage.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to hear me scream about something, I'll just start screaming randomly if you want. I mean, if that's what you were hoping for, I mean, I could just get mad. I got plenty. I'm recording this on a machine with Windows 11. I got plenty to bitch about, Fred, if you want that.
Mike, could you yell into the microphone as we gradually fade out your voice into the closing music?
Let's do it. But first, I want to thank everybody for listening today. This was actually an episode 3 years in the making, so we really appreciate it if you came out to listen to this, guys. Thank you so much for the support. You guys are awesome. And yeah, Fred, thanks for doing this with me. This was an absolute blast.
This is not the last time that we're going to be doing this. The Warrens is back, baby.
We're gonna try to, we'll try to keep this semi-consistent. We'll try to. We're shooting for like a bi-monthly episode.
That's the goal.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
Well, all right, here I am, Jabroni Mike, signing off. Fred?
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, here I go. Ah!